Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you and good morning for logging into this platform. I encourage all of you to always watch these videos and many more. On July 14th, 2023, I published a video on this platform titled Rogue NATO and the United States. In the video, I explained comprehensively how NATO members, and specifically the United States, was forcing Ukraine into an endless war. I explained in the video how these two entities were sponsoring war in Ukraine. They were supporting a war which they knew very well that Ukraine would not win. I also sent a warm message to the Ukrainian president and the Russian president. I encouraged them to engage and develop diplomatic relations in order to find a way out of this war. I encouraged the two presidents to find a solution to the war between the two countries. While explaining this, I also noted that the primary victims in the war between Russia and Ukraine was not the United States, was not NATO members, and was not their citizens, but the citizens of Ukraine's majorly. I have always emphasized and I have always noted that in any country that NATO and the United States intervenes, there is always protracted war. I gave an evidence or an example of Libya, which is still at war even at the time of making this video. I gave an example of Afghanistan, gave an example of Iraq. I have also cited several examples including in Africa, such as Somalia. I also noted in one of my videos that NATO members always, they do not mean good for countries, especially countries in Africa. But today I want to be specific to Ukraine. For a long time, since the start of the war between Ukraine and Russia, NATO members have sided with Ukraine. They have supported Ukraine militarily, financially, and economically. They have provided aid, they have provided weapons, and they have provided all other items that Ukrainians and the Ukrainian government might need. For this long time, NATO members have sided with Ukraine. They have supported Ukraine in this war with the satisfaction that Ukraine would win the war against Russia. At the time I was making this video and at the time I was logging into this platform, there was a new cold and proxy war between Ukraine and NATO members. Remember, just some few seconds ago, I have said that for a long time now, since the war between Russia and Ukraine started, NATO members have sided with Ukraine. They have supported Ukraine with military weapons. But at the time of making this video this morning, NATO members, 3 NATO members to be specific, were at war with Ukraine, a cold war. When I talk about a cold war, I mean a war that does not engage weapons. I mean a silent war. I was reading an article today published by the BBC, and this article was titled, it was published 9 hours ago, Ukraine sues European Union neighbors over food imports ban. Now, this article is posted on bbc.com and it says Ukraine has sued European Union neighbors over food imports ban. You can see that Ukraine is now engaging in a silent war with NATO members, European Union neighbors, and these European Union members are specifically Hungary, Poland, and Slovakia, as well as Bulgaria and Romania. Now, if you look at these countries, Hungary became a member of NATO in 1999. Slovakia became a member of NATO in 2004. And Bulgaria became a member of NATO in 2004. Now, the new war is not now between Russia and Ukraine. The new war is between Ukraine and NATO members and maybe European Union members. For a long time, these members have supported Ukraine. These members have supported the Ukraine war against Russia. And it comes a time now when these members are now trying to sabotage Ukraine. They are now working against Ukraine. Remember, blocking food imports to Ukraine and maybe out of Ukraine is a direct economic war with the country. It is trying to attempt to sabotage the economic performance of Ukraine. This is why I warned the Ukrainian president, Mr. Zelensky. I said that NATO cannot be trusted and the United States cannot be trusted. These NATO countries, these NATO members will push Ukraine to fight. They will supply weapons. They will equip Ukraine with weapons to fight against Russia. And they will ensure that this war is protracted, never ends. NATO members will only support a war in any country in the world if they have some interests in the war, if they have some interests in the country. They will only support a country militarily if they have some interests in that country. Take an example of Libya. NATO members invaded Libya, killed Saddam Hussein because of control over oil. The same thing I did say that will happen to Ukraine. NATO members will push Ukraine to fight. They will supply Ukraine with weapons. They will supply Ukraine with money to encourage Ukraine to fight. But what is the end result? The end result will be more Ukrainian citizens, innocent civilians will die out of this war. And what do you see now? NATO has turned against Ukraine. And this might just be the start. Blocking food imports from Ukraine is just the start. A time will come when all NATO members will withdraw from supporting Ukraine. All NATO members will withdraw their support to Ukraine. And that is when President Zelensky, the Ukrainian president, will understand that he was fighting a war that he could not win. And that is when President Zelensky will regret allowing to fight with Russia. I want to send a very warm message to President Zelensky. As I have always said, it is never too late. As I have always emphasized, it is never too late. Engage the Russian president on a one-on-one basis out of the interventions of NATO, out of the interventions of the UN. Engage the Russian president, Putin, on a one-on-one basis and solve the issues facing the two countries. It is possible. Coming to understanding with the Russian president is very possible, and that will provide an opportunity to establish the facts surrounding this war. Until then, Ukraine will continue to fight an endless war. Ukraine will continue to fight a war that it cannot win, and more Ukrainian citizens will die. The Ukrainian president, Mr. Zelensky, should understand that NATO will automatically turn against him. NATO will withdraw their support in the war, and that is when the Ukrainian president will understand that he was fighting with a superpower. He was fighting with a rival to the United States, and he was fighting a war that he was never meant to fight. Ukrainian president must understand that he is fighting a war on behalf of NATO. Ukraine is not fighting Russia. NATO is fighting Russia, and NATO is using Ukraine to fight Russia. Ukraine must understand this. It is a victim of a war that was not meant to be. The Ukrainian president, Mr. Zelensky, should engage the Russian president, Mr. Putin, and they should solve their issues amicably on a one-on-one basis, without the interventions of the United States, without the intervention of NATO, and without the intervention of the United Nations. If that is done, then I think more lives will be saved.